Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Coach Castle, back with my newest student, Jeremy, and today we were learning biomechanics today. Decided to take a field trip because it was extremely hot and sweaty out, so I thought we'd get uncomfortable. I was introducing Jeremy to the fact that you don't, again, need money or a gym to have perfect workouts. We used a little cable machine I put together. I'll include a video for you guys of how to build one yourself. It costs less than, I think, $25 to purchase these things. And you have a perfect 100% functioning gym, minus the weight. But as you learned today, anything is weight, and anything, as long as you have the cables, is a good workout place. And well, I'll let you take it from here. Why don't you go ahead and get into it?
Hi, I'm Jeremy, as Castle previously stated. Today we were doing some bicep curls, some tricep extensions, some lat pulls, and some oblique crunches. We decided to go do them in the park because we wanted to show that we were able to do it in any sort of scenario and get a good workout with the materials we had at hand, and that's exactly what we did. I learned a lot today about the type of angles you need to keep to make sure you're keeping proper muscle isolation in the workouts to get full maximum efficiency out of what you're doing, such as keeping a 30-degree angle perpendicular to gravity with your arm for a lat pull, making sure that it's 30 degrees this way, and making sure that your elbow is turned all the way around and pulling it in. We also did some bicep curls, keeping a 10-degree inclination parallel to gravity, and just a lot of other useful tips and bits about working out and making sure we have proper form.
So I guess we'll take them apart piece by piece. We'll include a video at the end of Jeremy actually doing these movements. But for right now, so the first thing we did was I explained them, and then we went to the gym, and I showed you how it would look with the gym setup. But then I made you take a look, see where the pulleys were, keep an eyeball on that, the cables and the angles. And then we just took a quick 10-minute walk to the park by my home, and we hooked up to a chin-up bar. So long story short, we had one pulley at a high angle up here, and then we had the weight attached to the ground. It was just a single pulley attachment, and you use that for your triceps with a cinder block, a half cinder brick. And what was the goal for that one? So what do we need to pay attention to?
For that one, we need to pay attention to keep our elbows tucked into the side of our body, and so we're not moving our arm back and forth in our workouts. We want to push all the way through our triceps. We want to make sure that the angle that is kept with the cable isn't being changed at all. We want to keep it as slow and steady pace when we're reclining back, and as fast as we can.
Mm-hmm. And then we moved on to the biceps. So what did we do with the biceps? We didn't even use cables.
Yeah, that we just use the cinder blocks themselves. Very similar concept in the timing, where we contract as fast as we can and we keep a slow and steady pace on the expansion of the muscle, and that's seen throughout many of the Castle's workout movements that have been taught to me, where the contractions are as fast as you can and the extensions are as a good 4 to 5 second pace.
And the reason for that, just briefly for those of you who haven't seen my other videos, you don't know, a brief explanation is the concentric or the raising of the weight. You are always, you're much weaker in that portion of the movement as a matter of fact. And then the lowering of the weight, your muscle is actually much stronger. It's actually 4 to 5 times stronger depending on the muscle. So to get the most out of it, you actually have to lower the weight very slowly to maximize the tension load, the eccentric portion of the movement. Most people, they just slam through their movements. They're missing a whole third of the movement, 2/3. They're missing 2/3 of the movement, sorry. And they don't even realize it because they don't understand you're supposed to slowly lower it to get the maximum benefit. But that's why we do these things. It's also another reason we don't need much weight, because anybody can throw around a lot of weight very easily with momentum. As soon as you tell that same exact person to slowly lower it, for some reason it suddenly becomes impossible. Well, it's not for some reason, it's because they're not strong enough to do it. They're using momentum and they're cheating and they're not actually using the muscle groups. We do things isolated, correctly, naturally, without damaging things. So let's move on to the oblique crunch. New movement for you.
Yeah, the oblique one was a quite of an awkward movement because I had to imagine a pivot point in the midpoint of my spine, right where my rib cage, and to isolate the movement with it. But it was a little bit easier. There were a couple of tries here and there. We also...
I wanted to bring up a point, just because the oblique's a good demonstration of this. If I just told you to do the movement, but I didn't explain it with the physics and the anatomy, it wouldn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
But when I explained to you that your oblique's attached to your lower ribs, there's no point in moving the lower half of your body. You shouldn't be moving your pelvis because then you're compromising all these things. When you look at the anatomy, you look at a skeleton and you look at the muscles, then you already know about physics. But then I explain how the physics relates to the muscles,
Mm-hmm.
it makes perfect sense, and you can do the movement. If I didn't do that and I told you to do it, you would have considerable difficulty performing the movement.
Yeah.
Understanding. You have to have the knowledge. But moving forward to the oblique crunch, what did that look like? Try to explain it.
It looked like trying to create sort of like a half-banked curve with your spine. So you're not doing a complete degree turn here where it's a pivot point. You're trying to keep it one smooth, consistent turn from the pivot point at the end of your rib cage up to your collarbone. So just be one smooth line and gradually turning.
Mm-hmm. So you would be using like to use the collarbone, kind of imagine a straight line right here, if you will. And when you do the movement, the weight is coming from over here. This arm is basically just slack. It's kind of like dead rope. So basically like the cable's actually attaching up here. So you're taking the load from here and you're crunching opposite resistance like so. So the opposite, the resistance part would be your obliques. The resistance will be coming from here, moving the load in this pattern as you see. It feels weird, but after 3 reps with just 10 pounds, you were like, oh wow, that really hurts when you were doing it right. And that's because the muscle was correctly contracting, and you probably had never actually felt that before with a correct contraction of the oblique. And then finally, we did the lateral pull, which you learned. So how would you get into that? If you, let's say you were educating somebody, how would you teach them to do it easily?
If I had to teach someone how to do the lateral pull easy, what I would tell them first is to make sure that your arm is attached to the rope as if it's a part of the rope. So your connection point, your pivot point is your shoulder, and your arm is just a part of the rope. And the same idea that your cable should be aligned with your arm completely. It should be all one connected line. And that degree angle from here, perpendicular to gravity, should be about a 30-degree angle. And your torso should be twisted about 30 degrees from this pivot point. So your shoulder here is basically where everything is rotating off of.
Yeah. So to keep it simple for anybody, just to keep it real simple, T stance here, and then you would just raise whatever arm that you're using up to 30 degrees, and then without even moving your torso, you could just move it forward 30 degrees. That's where then you'd want to grab the cable, but you'd rotate your palm, so your palm is up. That way the elbow is pointing down easily, and then you're just going to be pulling your elbow to your hip. Now the reason, again, we do that, I showed you the anatomy. That is where the latissimus connects on the humerus right here. And then to pull, to engage the lat, to get a full contraction of the lat, you have to obviously contract the humerus down. So in this particular movement, the 30-30 movement, you're getting a full contraction in your lat.
Yeah.
So at the park, how did we get to that?
Well, we had to use a tree just so it was high enough and so we were standing properly. But we just attached the weight to the bottom and made sure we had a pivot point over the tree trunk. Or really what we did, we attached a strap over the tree trunk. We had just a pulley hanging from the bottom of it. But we kept the weight there and we just backed up until our arm was at a 30-degree angle, and we moved our torso and twisted to make sure everything was aligned and just continued with the movement.
Mm-hmm. And again, we'll show you videos just to get the idea at the end of it, but one more time just with an explanation. You would take the T stance up and 30. Now the tree, you would simply set up the pulley so the weight is directly below the tree branch. The cord comes up, the pulley is hanging from the tree branch. The rope that is then coming towards you, you would then adjust your arm so it would look like this, going up to the pulley in line or parallel with the cable, and that's where you start the movement. Just again, but we'll show you the images. So again, the question I always ask, anything we learned today surprising?
The obliques part was a little surprising. I didn't know where they did and didn't connect, so it was a bit odd. But it is odd seeing a movement not be a completely linear joint movement, where it's more of a rotation of the entire piece itself instead of just one isolated portion. It's the first movement I've learned where it's not a pivot and joint situation.
Yep, so with the crunches, back extensions, and obliques, what's going on is you're moving many levers. So literally your spine is just a whole bunch of little levers with think little pillows in between them, and you have to do a multi-joint click, 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 click of all those pieces in order to get a contraction to the muscles that they're actually operating. And now you know that your obliques attach to your lower abs. They come up, and they're the things that are responsible for the rotation of your core this particular direction, and I'm going to teach you one more movement for them as well, but because they're a multi-directional thing. But anyways, so that's it, and I don't know, anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Pretty simple stuff.
Yeah,
well, it was not simple, but I mean, with the explanations, it becomes simple.
Yes.
So now we know how to work out at least these 4 movements on top of the legs, anywhere, anytime, as long as you have this or a gym or ropes or anything.
Yeah.
You're all good. So that's it. So Jeremy, as always, thank you for doing this with me.
Of course.
And I love teaching, you know that, and you're a great student. So, and thank you for taking your knowledge and sharing it with them now. It's a good way to learn. So thanks, guys. Stay tuned for Jeremy's progress as well, because he's on his journey, of course, as well as learning biomechanics. So keep rooting for him, too.
All right, have a good one.
Stay safe, guys.
Hi, I'm Jeremy, and I'm here with Coach Castle at the park today. We're going to be going over a couple upper body exercises with these cinder blocks and the cable setup here on the chin-up bar. We're going to be doing bicep curls, tricep extensions, lat pulls, and oblique crunches.
Took my chances, went the distance, will to survive. So many times you trade your passion for glory. Don't lose your grip. Keep them alive. And he's watching us all with the eye.
This is our castle. Our bones are the bricks and our blood is the mortar.